Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Today is July 28th, and I covered today's two deaths in one video and one post because they're both examples of black women dying on the altar of choice, and I'll link to those two women's story below. But what I want to do right now, I found a podcast on the Life Dynamics website where they talk to Troy Newman of Operation Rescue about what happens when abortions go wrong. And I'm really curious what Troy has to say, so let's have a listen and we'll go through this together.
Sometimes controversial, always politically incorrect, and pro-life without exception, without compromise, and without apology. It's the Pro-Life America podcast with your hosts, Sarah Waites and the president of Life Dynamics, Mark Crutcher.
Welcome back to the Pro-Life America podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Waites, and I am joined by Mark's daughter, my co-host, Sheila Crutcher.
Hi.
Sheila.
Hi.
We have a really great topic and guest for you guys. I always love talking to this person. They have a unique perspective. And the theme of our show is what happens when abortions go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the pro-choice community would tell you that nothing ever goes wrong, that abortion is completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
But Troy Newman...
Well, that's not true. They do, when pushed into a corner, admit that sometimes something goes wrong, but they write it off as, well, all surgery has risks, as if, all surgeons stick hemorrhaging patients in wheelchairs and shove them out the door to bleed to death, or all surgeons leave patients unattended in the recovery room to bleed out, or all surgeons hire high school dropouts or have the janitor doing anesthesia. The all surgery has risks doesn't necessarily hold water, does it?
And Operation Rescue focus on exposing what the abortion industry is hiding about the safety of abortion. And joining us today is none other than Troy Newman. How are you, Troy?
I am blessed beyond belief and very excited to be on your podcast. Thank you so much.
Well, we're super glad to have you. I can't believe this is the first time that we're having you.
I know, sometimes, the prophet was without honor in his own hometown, right? So
yeah, exactly.
We're so familiar with each other, been on Life Talk so many times, and then you just forget me. I understand. It's okay, though.
Killing us with kindness over there. Well, I kind of fell into the pro-life issue, and the things that I had been told about abortion, because I was one of those people that was in the middle. I was opposed to abortion, but I bought into this deal that some people are going to do it right, and there should be places open that can do this for them in a safe manner, and that these are professional entities that do this. And I just had no idea what crazy operations with absolutely unqualified people. I had no idea that when things went wrong and they called 911, that they didn't take it seriously.
Well, a lot of people don't know about how bad the abortion industry is because the media, government, and the abortion industry itself does everything that they can to cover up the issues.
And when it does come out, like with the Kermit Gosnell case, they try to sweep it under the rug. And it was, the Gosnell case only got as much publicity as it did because some people shamed the media for not paying attention.
And one of the first things that when you worked at Life Dynamics that Mark required was that you read line 5. And the first chapter is called Safe and Legal. And it goes over all these injuries that can happen and these vignettes of women and what they went through. And it's just absolutely horrifying. I know that me and as well as other people had nightmares about some of the stuff after reading that chapter.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, even some abortionists admit how bad abortion is. A perfect example is Warren Hearn, who in his own book, Abortion Practice, on page 101, wrote that abortion is a simple procedure, except for the uterus's total intolerance to poor technique. In the medical practice, there are few surgical procedures given so little attention and so underrated in its potential hazard as abortion.
And Troy...
Okay, so I thought they were going to take Hearn's quote about how emotionally grueling abortion is for the doctor the sensation of dismemberment flows through the forceps like an electric current. Maybe they'll get to that later.
I'm sure you had interesting encounters with Hearn. I know Mark did.
Oh, many. I've talked to him personally. And one thing in regards to abortion or child.
And something really interesting about Warren Hearn is I listened to what he would say to his fellow abortionists in National Abortion Federation meetings, and it's basically, would you please quit with the quackery? The stuff I see coming across my desk is really disturbing. Stop it already! Stop it with the malpractice. But when he's talking to politicians and the public, he's like, no. We are all Albert Schweitzer. The cream of the crop. Nobody ever does a bad thing ever in an abortion clinic. You don't need to regulate us. We're totally trustworthy. And then he goes back to a National Abortion Federation meeting and says, would you stop with the quackery, you... So he talks out of both sides of his mouth. Warren Hearn speaks with forked tongue.
Killing, taking the baby out of the womb. It's the only medical procedure done completely blind. Mm-hmm. So if they do open heart surgery or laparoscopic surgery, they bring in a camera, you do a colonoscopy, everything's done with a camera. The abortion is just sticking in the cannula, opening up the cervix, and then start just taking chunks out. And that's why they have to have a nurse, or I say that very rarely do you have a nurse. Yeah, so they used to work at 7-Eleven. They got looped in at $10 an hour to come over and count the baby body parts, and that's exactly what Norman McCorvey was hired to do. Yeah. And so many other of our informants that have come out of the abortion industry.
And I'll provide, in fact, let me bring up the, I'm going to grab my playlist here for unqualified staff. There we go. I've got a playlist of 20 unqualified staff, so I'll make sure I link to that. So you can get, we had Joe Bills Reynolds, who the guy he hired as a janitor was performing anesthesia. When Laura Hope Smith died, it was a hand holder who was performing anesthesia. The clinic where Gloria Aponte died, the receptionist would administer anesthesia. So, like I said, all surgery has risks. Every outpatient surgery center has the janitor administering the anesthesia. That's perfectly normal. Hand holders perform anesthesia all the time. Why go to college and become an anesthesiologist? I mean, a receptionist can do it. It's easy.
And said, yeah, I was just hired to, count the body parts. Whoop, I'm missing a leg. And oftentimes the abortionist doesn't care. Oh, it'll pass and so forth. But it's the...
Oh, yep. Or in the case of Betty D'Amato, he just sends her home with a trash bag and says, hey, collect whatever you've got in here in this trash bag.
Only medical procedure that's done completely blind.
Okay, so I'm 8 minutes into this, and that's, for me, a fairly long video, so we're going to stop here. Again, I'm going to link below to the anniversary, and I've got several other things I need to link to for you, so you've got a little bit of context for this, and I, of course, will link to this specific podcast.